Hello and welcome to Ginny's Gin Livestream. I'm Ginny and my husband Rob's going to be joining us, and together with our dear friends Amy and Jeff Close, we founded Ginny's Gin a few years ago and it's been quite the ride ever since. It's still very smoky outside here in Sonoma County, but it seems like the firefighters are getting a hold of the fires here locally anyway, and becoming more and more contained. There's a lot going on in 2020, obviously, and so we just want to take the next few moments to entertain, educate, and try and just think about gin for a little while and not all the problems that are going on. So today I am going to talk about the Martini. It's arguably the most famous cocktail in the world, and it's certainly the most debated. I decided to get dressed up for the Martini. It seems to me like it's a very classic but also classy drink, and generally it's, I think of it as a sort of a celebratory kind of drink. There's lots of things that have been said about it, obviously. In fact, I think it was Noel Coward that said, I beg your pardon, it was Ernest Hemingway. He believed that the ability to drink a martini was one of the hallmarks of being a man. And then I guess Nikita Khrushchev, he's a Soviet politician he was a Soviet politician during the Cold War. He called it America's most lethal weapon. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then of course you've got Dorothy Parker, so the literary great. She was actually one of the writers of the original A Star is Born. So she evidently said, I like to have a martini, 2 at the very most. 3, I'm under the table. 4, I'm under the host. Anyway, good job, Dorothy. So I did a poll this afternoon because one of the debates is actually about whether you shake or whether you stir your martini. It goes without saying that a martini is gin. The purists in us, we know that it's gin and not vodka. Gin is definitely the star of the show. It's all about the gin, if you like. So when you're making a martini, first of all, make it with Ginny's Gin, of course, but if you don't have Ginny's Gin, make it with a very high quality gin. The vermouth is sort of second place, if you like. We do have a friend, Marshall Dawson, who makes this wonderful vermouth. It's called Jardesca, and he has 10 different botanicals in there, and it's excellent. And actually, Marshall, I'm out of Jardesca, so I'm going to be making my martini the Noel Coward way, and we'll come to that later. So let me tell you about the poll that I took. So basically, I talked to a bunch of our local bartenders and bar owners in the neighborhood here in Napa and Sonoma, and I asked them, do you shake it or do you stir it? So here's some of their answers. So Sam Levy of Fern Bar in Sebastopol, I've always deferred to the guest's preference. At Fern Bar, they defer to stirred, so if nobody cares, then they stir it. But my experience is at least 80% of guests want it shaken, especially if I mention ice chits floating on top. So that's kind of interesting. He says he's been asking for 10 years, and it's pretty consistent. So the general public actually want it shaken, but most bartenders are going to tell you that it should be stirred.
It's cold or stirred?
It does get cold or stirred, yes. So Joel Feifel of the Sky and Vine Rooftop Bar at Archer Hotel in Napa, he says definitely stirred, no aeration for my martinis. Benjamin Wright of Perch and Plow in Santa Rosa, always stirred. And then Jason Duck of Charter Oak in St. Helena, I prefer my martini stirred for a good minute until it's perfectly cold and the texture is silky. But the best way to enjoy a martini is whichever way you prefer it. So we're not going to tell you what to do here, but we'll give some guidance. But it was kind of fun to talk to the pros. Oh, and actually Samantha at Carbianca in Santa Rosa, she was the only one that said she likes it shaken. So it's all good. Whatever you decide is fine. Just make sure that you're making it with Ginny's Gin, of course. So the other debate about the martini is how much vermouth. As I said before, it's make sure it's a good vermouth as well. So Noel Coward,
Fresh.
Yeah, exactly, fresh. And vermouth, by the way, once you've opened it, you need to store it in the refrigerator and probably for up to about 3 months. And if it's still there and there's none left, it means you're not making enough martinis, so get on with it.
So, like when I buy antique formula, I get the half bottle.
Get the half bottle, there you go.
Because it does oxidize.
Yeah, it does. It definitely should be kept in the fridge, for sure. So Noel Coward, he said the perfect martini should be made by filling a glass with gin and waving it in the general direction of Italy, which is where a lot of the vermouths come from, obviously. So you've got that one end of the spectrum, and then on the other end of the spectrum you have Prince Charles, heir to the throne, who he enjoys his martini as a 50-50, which obviously is half vermouth and half gin, but that's probably because he has to stay relatively sober at all of these royal functions. So I've also heard said that it should be 5 parts gin and 1 moment of silence for the vermouth, so depending on your preference, obviously. So dry martini calls for like anywhere from 3 to 6 parts of gin to 1 part vermouth. A bone dry martini is one that has just a dash of vermouth. In fact, you can even just put a little vermouth in the glass, swirl it around, and then dunk it out. So that's a dry martini, and bone dry obviously even less. Well, yeah, or wave in Italy. A wet martini contains more vermouth, so the more vermouth, the wetter it is. And as I said before, the 50-50 martini is equal amounts of gin and vermouth. So an upside down or reverse martini has more vermouth than gin. Who wants that though? That's no good. Okay, a dirty martini, that contains a splash of olive brine or a little olive juice, and is typically garnished with an olive. And so the garnishes tend to be either olives, a twist of lemon, or in the case of a Gibson, you use pickled onion, and it turns into a Gibson martini. And then of course we have, and then there's the perfect martini, which uses equal amounts of sweet and dry vermouth. And then of course you have the Vesper, and we all know the Vesper is a James Bond cocktail. And I don't know if you knew this, but it's also called the Bond Martini, but it's named after Vesper Lind, don't know if you knew this, who was the first ever Bond girl in the first ever Bond novel. And I thought that was kind of cool, so it's named after Vesper. And that novel was Casino Royale, and the Vesper actually calls for 1.5 ounces of gin, and then 3/4 ounces of vodka, and then half an ounce of Hina Lillet, which is no longer available. So I think a lot of bartenders substitute in cookie Americano. So that's what I've seen in a lot of recipes. And then James Bond asks for it to be garnished with a long, thin slice of lemon.
And some people use Lillet Blanc now.
And or Lillet Blanc, yeah, either one. Yeah, so, garnishes, as I say, James liked the lemon twist. I actually like lemon twist too, especially because we have lemon as one of our botanicals in the gin. And I'm not a huge fan of olives, but I know a lot of people love their olives, of course. Actually, some people call it a salad, don't they, Martini? The olive in there. In fact, what we did on our little, it's called a necker that we put out on the bottle, and it says, "Let the fun be gin." And so we did the Vesper here, it just has the little recipe and a little bit about the gin. And they told me that I had to have a photograph on this necker so that people would realise there's actually a Ginny. And I agonised about what that photo should look like. Should I be laughing? Should I be serious? Should I, blah, blah, blah. And I couldn't think of anything, and I was getting to it was like the night before I was awake trying to think about this. And it finally came to me, I think about 3 o'clock in the morning. So what I did is I made the martini, and I was basically standing there like James Bond and holding the martini this way. So it was in the 11th hour that I came up with that one. So that was for the necker. Okay, I guess I should probably make the martini after all this talking. And Rob's just like, of course you know what he's doing. He thinks I talk too much, but if anybody that knows us, he's the one that does all the talking.
It's not true.
It is. Okay, so we're going to do the gin first. So I'm going to do 4 ounces of gin here. 2 ounces. Yeah.
That's your daily 4-ounce ration.
That's my daily 4-ounce ration, Rob says. Okay, I'm not allowed to have any more than that. Right. Okay, so there's the gin. And as I mentioned, I'm going to do it the Noel Coward way. I am going to wave it in the direction to the east of Italy, because I don't have any Giardesca vermouth. And then I'm going to add the ice, and I'm just going to stir it. The thing about martinis is they have to be very, very cold. So keep your martini glasses in the fridge. I'm going to use this one right here. I love this little one. As you see, I have an array of martini glasses. We're not huge martini drinkers, but we seem to have a lot of martini glassware. My favorite happens to be this one, which is as big as my head, and I call that my...
Not quite.
Oh my God, did you hear that? Holy shit. So this is I call this my pandemic glass. It actually will hold an entire bottle of Ginny's gin. So that's for the really bad weeks. There we go.
COVID scale.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to add some ice to this. You would have your stirring glass and your glassware obviously in the fridge, but since I'm here in front of the camera, I'm just going to do it like this. I'm thinking maybe, like that. And I'm just going to stir it now for a minute, as I said, and we're going to get this nice and
smaller cubes would work better because more surface area.
Yeah. So the thing is, you don't want to dilute it too much. You want it to be nice and cold, which is why you would chill your glass. Obviously, it's nice and cold. Talk among yourselves. The other thing you can add too to your martini, if you like, is some bitters. I've read a lot, mainly it's orange bitters that people add to their martinis. And we have another friend, she's actually in Petaluma, and Phaedra has Flora Luna bitters, and that's in Petaluma. So you can add a little dash of that. What do you think? It's getting nice and silky. The nice thing about Ginny's gin is that it's partially distilled from grape spirits. And what the grape spirits bring to the table is this wonderful sort of lush, round mouthfeel. So it's sort of already silky, but then when it's really nice and cold, it's got a wonderful mouthfeel. So I think we're good there. Yep. Nice and cold. Excellent. And then we're just going to strain it into our chilled martini glass. There we go. Perfect. Now, as I say, I don't love olives, and I just felt like it today. I'm actually going to make it a Gibson by putting these wonderful pickled onions in there. So that's my Gibson. But I'm actually going to call it my 2020 Gibson, because I think 2020 calls for rather a stiff drink. So Noel Coward style martini, stirred, not shaken, and it's become a Gibson. And actually the Gibson was invented here locally at the Bohemian Grove Club, which our son, it was in 1907, and our son actually worked there one summer at the Grove. So there it is, the Gibson Martini. Cheers to all. And Rob, now take it away with your strawberry, what are you calling it?
Juice shake.
Strawberry juice shake.
It's like Juice Shack. Hi everybody. So this is kind of fun because I've always wanted to make a drink from strawberry juice, and what I had read was that strawberry, as well as grapefruit juice and watermelon, they really, when you put them in a shaker with ice cubes, you're diluting them and they're already kind of watery. And so the idea is to I took 2 little baskets of strawberries from the grocery store and just fed them through the juicer. And the juice that I ended up with, I put in an ice cube tray, and your regular plastic ice cube trays are 1 ounce per cube, by the way. So this drink has 2 cubes of juice and then no ice. And so then when you shake it, that after a pretty hard shake will just melt into the drink, make it super cold. And then I made the first one last night, and it called for a little bit less than a ½ ounce of simple syrup and a 1/4 ounce of lime juice, and I felt it was just too sweet and not tart enough. So I'm gonna I upped it to a ½ ounce of lime juice and then a little bit less than a ½ ounce of simple syrup. And then I also tried it again last night and added Thai basil, and it made it for us way, way better. So that's what I'm gonna make. So we'll get the mixing tin out, and then you can certainly do this in advance, but I thought it would be kind of fun just to do it right now on the fly. And that is just to take, I don't know, maybe 8 8 or 10 fresh Thai basil leaves. So Thai basil from the garden. And just chuck it in a little jar. And then to that, we're going to add our 2 ounces of Ginny's gin. 1 and 2. And then, well, no, because you know you lose a little bit in the basil, so I wanted to add a little extra. Yep. And then quick little pulse. Now you can just bruise it if you want to, but I don't know. I think we get more out of it this way. Okay. Okay, there's that.
That gets a lot of use.
Yeah,
and
then we're just gonna put it right through the strainer. I found the strawberry just even without that much simple syrup and more lime, it was just kind of sweet. And then when you add the vegetalness of the basil, you can use regular basil. We love our Thai basil.
It balances it out.
Yeah, it makes it even better. That's my bar spoon.
Yep.
Okay, and so just to confirm, we've got, let's see if we still have 2 ounces. 1. So you could see, and it's just a little bit less than 2 ounces now, so that's why I did add extra. So we're just gonna make sure that we got the right.
Gotta have the right amount of gin.
The right amount of gin. And then we're gonna take one of these beautiful limes, and a half of one of these should be about a half an ounce. They're pretty juicy. We'll go a little bit more than a half, that way we know we have enough. And we're gonna go ½ ounce of lime juice, fresh squeezed lime juice, right there's the ½ ounce. And then our simple syrup, which is still in the fridge.
I can grab that.
Thank you. And I thought I had everything. Okay, everything is in the pool except for a little bit less than a ½ ounce. And then this is just strawberry juice. I ran it through a quick strainer, but it strained really fast after I ran it through our juicer. So just a 1 ounce cube, and we're gonna put 2 of those. And this is kind of fun, and this is really a technique that's great for like people that don't have a lot of equipment, want to do something really fun, their friends are coming over the next day. Freeze a bunch of strawberry juice or watermelon juice, mix it with lemon or lime and simple syrup, and yeah, it's a really great party drink, and you can even do like 6 or 8 at a time in a blender, and it will work just as well. So
it smells like strawberry.
that's the fun drink.
Oh.
So yeah, and so we're just gonna go scant, like just a little bit under a ½ ounce. And there it is, and that's the whole drink. And then the idea is to shake until those are completely gone, which does take a bit of work. But you can hear it, and they'll melt. They do melt faster than regular ice. And because they all go into solution, it makes the drink very, very cold. You can just see how frosty these tins are already. So yeah, I'm not quite there. It does take a little bit of work.
Yeah.
They call it shaking to completion. Sorry. Did I really?
Yeah, we don't want any premature.
Okay, now you can hear there's no more solids in there. Yeah, no, you wouldn't want to go too early.
All right.
It's super, super cold. And
really,
I mean, we really don't need the strainer. You just go, there's our drink.
Yeah. Yum. Pretty color. Delish.
And then, just for fun, and to make it look really cool, maybe a little, that's too big a one.
Trying to find the right basil leaf.
Yeah, you know how I am. Little Thai basil leaves.
All right.
And there is our strawberry Ginny's gin juice shake Thai basil cocktail. That's it. Yeah, it's perfect for Friday night.
There's a few friends that have birthdays today, so happy birthday to Joe in New Zealand and to Anne-Marie in Calistoga.
And also my cousin Todd.
Oh, and your cousin Todd. So 3
happy birthday, cuz.
today. All right.
Yep.
Let's have a little.
Now I hope we're not missing someone, right?
Oh, I know, really. Probably shouldn't have started that, huh? All right. Cheers, honey.
Cheers, babe.
Cheers to
Cheers,
everybody.
Happy Friday.
Yeah, I just turned the page to the calendar, and of course now it's going to be September. So we'll do something with, apples, and then grapes are coming into season, obviously. So the next few weeks we'll make sure that we do some cocktails with the new things that are coming into season. Cheers.
And you could do this with lemon too. It's good. Awesome. Cheers.
Thanks, honey. That's
I
awesome.
could have cooking a little longer. Try that.
Premature.
Yeah, I did. I did premature.